Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Mr. John Cornett's over here on guitar, and Tim Pate is here as well to answer questions and take comments here after a brief break with some hemp news. We have a bunch of film clips coming up from our exciting Hempstock Festival, which is one of our most exciting yet. We'll be talking about that. And more excitement as we take your calls here. So stay tuned as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, tonight's first hemp news story is courtesy of Paul Armentano and the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and the East Bay Express. California's campaign finance reports disclose that California Beer and Beverage Distributors Association is one of the primary financial backers of Public Safety First, the sponsors of the No on Proposition 19 campaign. Proposition 19 is the state initiative down in California that would legalize any adult to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana, grow a personal use garden of up to 25 square feet, and license cities and counties in California to legally tax and regulate the sale of marijuana. So we have the booze lobby funding the No on 19 campaign. From the East Bay Express, the California Beer and Beverage Distributors disclosed it donated $10,000 to defeat Proposition 19, which would regulate and tax marijuana like alcohol. The Alcohol Lobbyist Fund will help spread the lie that employers must tolerate stoned employees and the talking point that, quote, California doesn't need another legal mind-altering substance, end quote. Alcohol causes an estimated $38 billion in costs for California each year, from emergency room visits, arrests, etc. According to the Marin Institute, there are roughly 3,500 deaths annually from alcohol-related illnesses in California and 109,000 alcohol-related injuries in California. Conversely, cannabis only caused 181 emergency room visits in 2008, according to a study by the nonpartisan RAND Corporation, despite being used by more than 4 million Californians every month. Law Enforcement Against Prohibition spokesperson and retired Orange County, California judge James Gray said that the alcohol lobby's decision was probably financial. The move echoes the tobacco and alcohol industries helping in creating the leading drug war group Partnership for Drug-Free America. According to the group Law Enforcement Against Prohibition and their spokesperson, they said, quote, it's really a wise thing to do from a merchandising standpoint to reaffirm the distinction between a legal and illegal drug. They're protecting their own economic self-interest, end quote. The Alcohol Lobby's $10,000 donation to the No on Proposition 19 campaign is one of the largest monetary donations received by Public Safety First, and third only to the $30,000 donated by the California Police Chiefs Association and the $20,500 donated by the California Narcotics Officers Association. Last month, the East Bay Express reported that total financial contributions to the Proposition 19 campaign were well ahead of those reported for the Public Safety First campaign, which at that time had only raised $61,000 with only one citizen donor. Of course, this isn't the first time that the California Beer and Beverage Distributors have targeted their alcohol profits to oppose drug law reform in the Golden State. In 2008, booze lobbyists donated a much larger amount, $100,000 in fact, to defeat Proposition 5, the Nonviolent Offender Rehabilitation Act, which would have, among other things, reduced criminal marijuana possession penalties from a misdemeanor to a non-criminal infraction. The measure failed 40% to 60%. Could it be that the alcohol lobby is fearful of the day when they'll have to legally compete with a natural product that's remarkably safe, non-toxic, and won't leave you with a hangover? I think you can decide. I'd like to thank again Paul Armentano and the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, as well as East Bay Press for that story. Our last story tonight comes from Washington, D.C. Police prosecuted 858,408 persons for marijuana violations in 2009, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's annual Uniform Crime Report released yesterday. The arrest total is the second highest ever reported by the FBI and marks a 1.3% increase in the total number of marijuana arrests reported in 2008. According to the report, marijuana arrests now comprise more than one-half, or approximately 52%, of all drug arrests reported in the United States. A decade ago, marijuana arrests comprised just 44% of all drug arrests. Approximately 46% of all drug prosecution nationwide are just for marijuana possession, simple possession alone, which here in Oregon and California has been decriminalized. According to Paul Armentano of National Normal and the Deputy Director of National Normal, quote, "The numbers tell the story. The enforcement of criminal marijuana laws and prosecution of marijuana offenders, in particular minor marijuana possession defendants, is driving the present drug war. Those who claim otherwise would be better off advocating for a long overdue reprioritization of law enforcement resources and concerns. It makes no sense to continue to prosecute Americans for their use of a substance that poses far fewer health risks than alcohol or tobacco. A better and more sensible solution would be to legalize and regulate cannabis in a manner similar to alcohol, as is presently being proposed by California in Proposition 19, end quote. Of those charged with marijuana violations, approximately 88%, or 758,593 Americans, were charged with possession only. The remaining 99,815 individuals were charged with sale and manufacture, a category that includes virtually all cultivation offenses. Regionally, the percentage of marijuana arrests was highest in the Midwest, with 62% of all drug arrests, and the southern part of the country with 56% of all drug arrests, and lowest in the West, where cannabis prosecutions comprised only 40% of total drug arrests. In 2007, the FBI reported 872,721 marijuana prosecutions in the United States, the highest total on record. So that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. Now we're going to jump over to Mr. John Cornett. Did you enjoy our Hemp Fest this weekend, John? You put on a great set with Tim Pate and Russ Belleville and Kenny Davis.
It was pure fun.
Yeah.
And I was telling Tim backstage, I said, you know, I just feel a positive energy this year that I hadn't felt in previous years. It's like we know we're on the right track and we intend to stay on the track. Well, you know,
having former two-term Republican Governor Gary Johnson there giving the key central speech on Saturday afternoon at the height of the festival was really key. And I even found out it was covered by KATU on their website, and they ran a little bit of video of Governor Johnson's speech. Amazing. So that was a good thing. He gave a great speech, and he went the next day and gave a speech on the Mall in Washington, D.C. And he's a top contender for the Republican nomination for President of the United States. And I'll tell you, if he had the nomination, I'd vote for him. And I'm not a Republican.
I'm nonpartisan. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I want to dedicate this song to you. It's a song you've stated that you like. It's called Now's the Time.
All right. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Now is the time. Time is now to tell the truth, to hear the truth, to know the truth. Oppressive lies and fantasies isn't how it has to be. And ignorance throwing stones like so many brainless clones. Sound the alarm, re-educate. Sound the alarm, investigate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. No, no. Now is the time. Time is now to speak the truth. To seek the truth. To be the truth. Corporations, governments are rarely ever innocent. Dissension is the only way and live to see another day. Sound the alarm, re-educate. Sound the alarm, investigate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Sound the alarm, investigate. Sound the alarm, re-educate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa.
Mr. John Cornett. I really do like that song.
I wrote that song
It's a
for
great
this
one.
show 2 years ago.
Really, that's great.
Yes, sir.
That's great. I really like that one. Thank you, John. Mr. John Cornett. Well, welcome to our show. I want to congratulate Mr. Tim Pate for putting on and organizing a very successful event in our Portland Hempstock Festival here this past week. He pulled along with the team of other people, the lion's share of the duties. I know you wore yourself out a few times there, working day to night, and preparing for it.
Well, it takes a lot to put on something like this. It takes a lot of really wonderful volunteers, a lot of people willing to, give their time and energy and effort to, and do what they say they're going to do. And very fortunate this year. We
had an incredible assortment of people in town. The Oregon Normal, the National Normal Conference definitely enhanced it. And
it did.
We had Governor Gary Johnson here in town, and he gave us a call a couple months ago and came and gave a very inspirational speech. I mean, I haven't heard any other politicians on either side of the aisle come out and say what he said. And his basic message was, it's time to redouble our efforts and legalize cannabis now.
Yes.
He said that repeatedly. We're going to have a film clip that LK did a brief interview with him, and we'll be showing his speech here in the future, too.
Well, we were surrounded by wonderful people. We had bands from Jamaica. We had two of Willie Nelson's kids come out and play. We had John Trudell, who was
you and I. Hero
we
for
know
a
our
long time.
opinion of him, and we've
and then in speakers we had Dana Beal, who started the White House Smoke-In and started the Million Marijuana March and the Global Marijuana March, and I first got involved with him back when I was 18 and went to a Washington White House smoke-in. But then we had Keith Stropp, the founder of NORML. We had so many. Ed Rosenthal, he came and spoke for the first in many years. Ben Mazzell from Madison, Wisconsin. The list goes: Chris Conrad, Vivian McPeak. The list just goes on and on. We had an incredible assortment of speakers.
Yes, we did.
And rocking the house.
All our
with
friends
music
showed
out
up.
there. That's true.
And then we, have to apologize because we really weren't necessarily prepared for the 40 to 50,000 people that showed up for the weekend. There was a lot of folks out there. There really were. So
I know we had buses running people back and forth, but I think we could have used about twice as many buses, even though we spent about $4,500 on procuring the buses we had.
That's true. Well, even
that
more
doesn't
than
even
that,
count
actually.
the cool bus.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. So now, next year we'll know.
The cool bus is a biodiesel forest activist bus.
Each year we look at what we've done. We're going to have a meeting out at the park on the last Sunday of September at noon, and have a picnic again like we've been doing all summer, and because of that, it gives us a chance to debrief and decompress and talk about all the things that we had.
Yeah. So if you were volunteering at our Hemp Fest
this year that have come up before, that we were really able to take care of much better. I felt like our rock medicine response this year was just hands down, 10 times better than it's ever been before.
Well, we've been in that location now for 2 years.
Yeah, so we understand the needs.
Second time we got to 2 years in location. This was our 6th annual event.
Right.
So, you know what, though? We've had a caller who's been standing very patiently by. Welcome to our show, caller.
Yes, hello, Paul.
Howdy.
My name is George, and I'm from Portland, and I just had a question for you this evening.
Go right ahead, George.
Well, I have a question with cannabis and canines. Is it good to maybe treat ailments for your loved pets and maybe other household pets of that nature, or is it not recommended?
Well, veterinarians, of course, have absolutely no training on this in the modern day. However, if we look back to before the point where cannabis was illegal back in the 1930s, we'll see that there were many veterinary medicines that were composed of cannabis. I can have a collection in our museum for our foundation of medical cannabis containers, and some of those are veterinary medicines. And in fact, the word cannabis comes from the same root as the word canine. And for some period, they actually called cannabis dog weed because it affects dogs pretty profoundly and has been used for a lot of different medicines for them and for horses and cattle. It was used as a colic cure for those animals. So it's been used for veterinary medicines for many years, but that's about as much as I can tell you. I can't really tell you what ailments to use it for or exactly how to use it with canines.
Oh, okay. Great. I have one more question for you, Paul, if you have a minute.
Sure.
Now, is it good to, obviously, when in the house and you're weighing your medicine and stuff like that, to keep scales and stuff like that in the house due to maybe being harassed by the feds or fuzz or whatever have you?
Well, as long as you have a permit and you're not over your limits when it comes to the medical marijuana law in Oregon or whatever state you happen to live in with a medical marijuana permit, having a scale to make certain you're not over certain limits would not be problematic. In fact, the federal government is not going to come and enforce federal laws against people who are complying with the medical marijuana laws, especially if they have no commercial considerations with dispensaries or anything like that. So it's not something I've heard of anyone. I've only known one patient who's ever had his plants taken away by the federal government, and that did not continue. They dropped that case, and I went and gave him some return plants, and it was pretty odd case. They'd gone in and taken this quadriplegic man's, Leroy Stubblefield of Sweet Home, Oregon. They took his marijuana plants. I was so outraged, I had a press conference and took him some new ones the next day. So we ended up suing the federal government in that case, but the lawsuit got thrown out.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I know that when I'm sitting at home with my 3 dogs that are usually really lively because they're Dachshunds and they can be real lively at almost any time, you know. If I'm sitting home and I'm smoking at home.
Amazing how fast they run with those little legs.
That's right. And I'm all alone and I'm sitting there and they all gather around me and fall asleep at my feet every evening. So I think they like it too. Let me just put it in those terms.
So there's some anecdotal evidence for you.
That's all I can report.
We have a studio audience here, and if you ever want to come down to our studio audience, we're here live every Friday night in Portland, Oregon at 2766 Northeast MLK, where we have a studio audience. And one of our studio audience members has a question. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. I simply wanted to append our response to the gentleman who just called.
Sure.
I also have a couple of mini dachshunds, and one of them got a hold of a brownie that I didn't want to eat because I thought it was too strong. And he, now I'm not advising you to go out and feed your dog brownies or anything else. I'm not a vet, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but my boy is a month later and he's still alive. And according to my
hasn't killed him, but did his legs get wobbly?
Before I admitted to my partner that I'd screwed up and left one on the floor, I made sure that she didn't see any outward signs of aberrant behavior from him.
All right.
Once she reassured me that was not the case, then I alluded to her that he had swiped my brownie.
But with no ill effect that you
no ill effects. No, he's.
Well, there's more anecdotal evidence.
She
right
told me he was a little
on
groggy, and I
our
said,
set,
"Great." So now we know what to give him.
All right. All right.
You know, going back to the subject of the Hempstock, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but we were nominated for a Jack Hare Award.
No.
For the most outstanding hemp event.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Well, that's good. That's a new award, obviously.
Yes, it
This
is.
the first annual Jack Hare Awards. Who is the organizing body that's doing that? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know enough information.
I'm
I don't
not
have
sure.
enough. I was notified on camera last week at the show. Somebody was interviewing me, and then this told me, and I didn't know, and so I need to do some more digging, I guess, and I haven't done that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw a little bit of something about that on the internet, but you just never know. We have another phone call. Welcome to our show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Sure you are.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you.
you.
Hey, I had a question.
Good.
I smoke weed, but
Okay, well, we're happy for you. Just hang in there, bro, and it'll all be okay.
Apparently he was
Anyway.
doing it at that moment.
Yeah, I guess so. He wanted to do it
No,
right on the air
yeah.
with us here. So, yeah, we're there for you, man. Thanks for calling. That was really profound.
You had your chance.
If you have a question that's a little more coherent and logical than that one, then give us a call at 503-288-4448. That number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. We haven't had many of those calls get through lately. With
That's the first time in I think
a while
in years
since
and years.
we
actually.
came up
Yeah,
with
it doesn't happen very often
some
anymore.
new procedures to minimize those. But
We did. We
yeah.
had to because we had
we're
a
getting
slew
some
of those for a
crazy
while.
people, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, you have to take control of it.
That's true, and so
Yeah,
we
we
have.
did.
So now life goes on, rah.
What number show is this, by the way?
This is show number 551. That means we've done 550 shows prior to this. Last week's show with John Trudell was our 550th. So we're working towards 600 now.
That
We
is
should
appropriate.
make it there the rate we're going before this time next year.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, so we'll see what happens. About this time next year, maybe, depending on how many shows we have to tape. But of course, we got so much material from Hempstock, we could run shows on that for weeks. We have another
really
caller.
cool. That's
Welcome to our show, caller.
hi, I'm a dachshund living in Southwest Portland,
Okay.
and I'm really stoned right now. I'm just wondering, what kind of snack foods do you recommend?
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
You know,
Well,
let's see. What kind of?
I didn't even know dachshunds could, with those short little legs,
That's
grab
it.
the phone.
That's it.
you
That's
know,
it. They can. They can.
It's an
Okay,
iPhone. It's an iPhone, so it's easy to dial.
I see. I see. Well, maybe that's voice command. I don't know. And your barking is remarkable. But
Hey, mine like the little liver treats. They really do.
Okay, well, I'll give it a try. Everybody vote in November. We know what we need, and we need it now.
Yep, you're right.
vote for
Amen.
Proposition 19 down in California, and right here in Oregon we have Measure 74, and in Arizona and South Dakota they're going to implement a new medical marijuana law
Right
via the
on.
ballot coming up. So
Very
I'm pretty
good.
excited about that.
Well, we're winning on so many fronts. We've had a lot of victories, over the last decade, and it's time that people wake
Keith
up.
Stropp said that we'd had more progress in the last 3 years than in the previous 30.
Yes.
And he knows because he's been at the forefront for
Yes,
about
he
40
has.
years
Yes,
now.
he has. Keith
So,
is my hero in many
He's
respects.
one of mine for sure, too. He's right up there. He's been the forefront of, starting the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
He has one quality that I like. He never gave up. He just never gave up.
Persistence pays, and I like to concentrate on that one myself, too.
I know, me too.
And so I know for a while he took a hiatus from NORML, and he was the executive director of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. So he ran that for about a dozen years before he came back to NORML.
Which only speaks highly of what his peers think of him as well.
That's obviously true. That's not a job you get without a lot of support from other criminal defense lawyers.
True.
So we have just bunches of film clips. I'm not sure which one we're about to
I'm glad because I didn't get to see any of this.
Yeah.
I was busy. As you know, I
I didn't see a lot of it either. I
was
heard
working
the bands from backstage, but I didn't get to see. I was up there a couple of times. When Human started their set, I got to see that. And Lost Marijuanos, got to see them. So.
I tried to see everyone, but I ended up seeing just bits and pieces of lots of folks.
We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Howdy.
I have a question.
Sure.
I wanted to find out how I could go about getting a marijuana card.
Well, we have doctors who can help you. One thing you can do is look at your state laws. If you're here in Oregon, you go to the Oregon Health Department and the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. And they have a website where you can get those forms, and you can actually take the forms in and get your doctor to fill out what's called the attending physician statement. And you can fill out the patient application form, and then you turn that in to the health department with a $100 annual fee. And if you're on the on Oregon Health Plan or food stamps or Social Security's Supplemental Security Income Program, SSI, you can get that fee lowered down to $20 a year. Now, if your doctor...
Oh, okay. Well, I actually work, and I have insurance, not through the Oregon Health Plan.
Sure.
My doctor does not support the marijuana.
Well, I've got good news for you. He doesn't have to. We have a whole network of doctors, not just here in Portland and throughout the state of Oregon, but throughout the United States, where we have helped over 150,000 people get their medical marijuana card and permit in their state by hooking up with doctors. So we have an extensive physician referral service, and you can call us for more information. You can call 24 hours a day and leave a message. We'll get back to you the next business day. And that number to call here in the Portland area is 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. There it is. Again, in Portland, 503.
Yes, I'm in Portland. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Portland, and this really helps. I've been, suffering from arthritis and degenerative diseases, and
well, you definitely qualify. Both of those conditions qualify, and our doctors will be happy to help you. And it's up to you whether you want to inform your primary care doctor of obtaining that card or not. You could, or you didn't have to. It'd be entirely at your discretion.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
I have
You're welcome.
degenerative bone disease myself, ma'am, so I wish you the best, and I hope you get their medicine quick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. And then if you're outside of the Portland area, we have a toll-free number you can call. It's 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. Anywhere from the East Coast of the United States to out in Honolulu and Kauai in Hawaii. So if you need a doctor, we have an extensive doctor referral service. You can call us at 1-800-723-0188. Or look at our web portal at hemp.org. Find out more. We have a film clip we're going to run, then we'll be right back. So stay tuned. Tune in.
Hey, this is LK backstage at Hempstock 2010. I'm here with Governor Johnson. And what do you think of the Hempstock?
Well, a great event, really. I think that nationally, the issue of legalizing marijuana is at a tipping point. I think that it's going to happen in the next several years. But I think everybody needs to redouble their efforts on making this happen, on actually making it, pushing it over the line.
I was at the Normal Conference, and I know you were there. What'd you think of that event?
Well, again, all organizations, this event just lends to the education of legalizing marijuana. Look, when you talk about legalizing marijuana, it's never going to be legal to smoke pot, become impaired, get behind the wheel of a car. It's never going to be legal to smoke pot, become impaired, do harm to others. It's never going to be legal for kids to smoke pot. But that said, let's tax it, regulate it, let's control this product.
Excellent. I think that you pretty much covered my next question, but if you could say anything to the marijuana community, what would it be?
That we do redouble our efforts here to push this over the line, to make it happen. In spite of all the advances that have been made, we're still today arresting as many people as we've ever arrested, which is 1.8 million people a year in this country. We have an incarceration rate in this country among developed countries that is 4 times the per capita incarceration rate of number 2, which is New Zealand. That's crazy. That's insane. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results? Let's legalize marijuana. Let's start looking at the other drugs from a health standpoint rather than a criminal justice standpoint.
Is there anything else that you would like to say?
I think we got it.
I think we got it. Again, this is LK backstage at Hempstock 2010 with Governor Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Oh, cool. Well, we'll listen to this. I love this song. After this song, then.
Yeah. Hempstock. Good to be here. I played that Seattle Hemp Fest for years and years. Started out as a little place up there in Starlight Mountain. Smaller than this even. Way up there in the Cascades, you know. Be getting cold this time of night. You'd be hunkering down in your sleeping bag in your tent, taking a little nip. Song from back in those days. Well, here's a little. Growing wine by the side of the roadway, it's nature's a wonderful weed. Been around so long, it's hard to tell why anyone would think it's new. Love it or hate it, however you relate. But isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. Now history's locked in the cardboard box and it's hard to take a look. With sidetrack frills and fantasies all written all over the book. Everybody tells you what to think and they've got their reason. Up by the scruff of the neck and look it right in the eye. And isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. Now the same people that are spreading the fear, the same people that scare me the most. You know, some of them look like they just as soon like to hang it from a lamp post. They talk about what it does to your brain. Well, I just have to react, 'cause Hitler never touched the stuff, and that's an actual fact. And isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. Now, George Washington was the father of our country, and he had a hemp plantation. Betsy Ross used it to make the flag that flew above the baby nation. They wrote their declarations on paper from that same hemp fiber press, and I don't know what they smoked when they were taking a break, but I got a pretty good guess. It isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. Now it'll calm you down when you're too uptight, you know, it just might make you smile. Use the seed oil in your engine, well, it'll lubricate the miles. Glaucoma and chemotherapy, they say it smooths out the track. So next time you meet a cancer patient, ask them what they think about that, and isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. I don't know why some people get so upset when you say to legalize it. They'd rather build more jails, arrest more people, and spread more crazy lies. It's like talking to a brick wall. You know, they just don't get the facts. I think they ought to try a little of that Betsy Ross. It just might help them relax. And isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough for me. Now, this is just a song about a plea for common sense. You know what I'm saying? Just a little common sense, a little bit of slow down on to pick them up and throw them away and lock the door kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know why. So I guess I've just about had my say. Get beyond my way. I know some people don't like the kind of things I've got to say, but I got mine and you got yours. We give what we can take. So next time I need a breather, well, I might just take a little smoke break. And isn't that righteous? Isn't that good enough? Ain't that the way it ought to be? Isn't that righteous? And isn't that good enough? Righteous is good enough, yes. Righteous is good enough. Righteous is good enough for me. Thank you.
All right. That is Jim Page, a real American folk music treasure. According to Bob Dylan, Jim Page is the man. And that is just one of the many folk songs he's written, and we're really honored that he has joined our Hempstock family. I have a little speech I put together for the Seattle Hemp Fest. I've changed it just a little bit. It pretty much says the paradigm or the worldview that I hold, so I'm going to tell you how that went. You know, we have to stop the lies about cannabis that cause so much suffering in the world today and work for global cannabis freedom. We need to stop the barbaric injustice of cannabis prohibition, stop the executions, such as in Malaysia and Thailand, the incarceration and denigration of people for cannabis, and restore hemp. We need to free Mark Emery, free Roger Christie in Hawaii, free Eddie Lepp in California, and let our people go. But let's go back for a moment. Please allow me to digress way back for me. 32 years ago, way back in 1978, just after a week after my 18th birthday, I attended a rally, a protest for marijuana, the White House Smoke-In in Washington, D.C., organized by the Yippies and Dana Beal. Then, almost 30 years ago, from 1982 to 1984, I was the director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws state chapter in Washington State. 28 years ago, back in 1982, while I was visiting down in Los Angeles, I first met Jack Herer and his partner, Captain Ed Adair. They owned some head shops along Van Nuys Boulevard. Later, I first read about the wonders of industrial hemp in an article called the California Marijuana Initiative White Paper. It was written by Jack Herer, which was printed by Dana Beal and the Yippies in their newspaper called Overthrow. Back on March 22nd of 1983, I was arrested in Washington State beside the Puget Sound at the gate of the Bangor Naval Submarine Station for blocking a train carrying hydrogen bomb warheads to the Trident submarines. I was one of what was then called the Bangor Six. Now, back in August of '84, first I moved to Oregon to help the Oregon Marijuana Initiative. Then a couple months later, Jack Herer moved to Oregon, also to help OMI. Jack moved into a house that was just a couple blocks away from mine here in Portland, Oregon. And all these years later, I can admit that both Jack and I enjoyed growing some pretty good cannabis in our basements in Portland way back when. Back in 1985, 25 years ago today, Jack Herer was working on his book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and he needed a place to work away from his young children. This was in the day before computers and printers, back when cut and paste was done with scissors and glue and lots of stacks of paper. I did some research on Jefferson and George Washington and found quotes from our nation's founding fathers in books put together by the Library of Congress. And they were included in Jack's book and later as the final chapter of Chris Conrad's book, Hemp Lifeline to the Future. Jack came and took over my house in 1985 and put together the very first edition of The Emperor right there in my living room. And that and the rest is history. But you know, all of that catalyzed us. Jack's book motivated untold scores to work for global cannabis freedom and to restore industrial hemp. And that brought the whole picture into focus about hemp and cannabis. Now we know and can see, you know, marijuana catalyzed me. Marijuana motivated me and continues to motivate me. I studied Chinese and went to school in China so I could import hemp, and I started a hemp paper company called Tree Free Eco Paper. I started and continue to produce and host this television show, Cannabis Common Sense, and we've produced, as of tonight, 551 episodes of Cannabis Common Sense since 1997. And I also started, and today I run THCF, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation. Not only does THCF sponsor many events and organizations for putting on our annual Hempstock Festival, and THCF is the presenting sponsor of the world's largest pro-cannabis protestival, the Seattle Hemp Fest, for several years too. But more importantly, perhaps, THCF medical clinics have helped over 150,000 people across the United States become legal medical marijuana patients who can legally possess, use, and grow their own medicine. But you know what? It goes much deeper than this. Cannabis hemp is deeper than its long taproot. Marijuana is deep. Cannabis hemp catalyzed civilization itself. Marijuana jump-started human civilization. All archaeologists agree that hemp was among the first crops purposely cultivated by humans, and it may be the very first. Over 12,000 years ago, people began growing hemp, and its cultivation spread from its indigenous home high in the Himalayas of Tibet, Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Kashmir, to the opposite flanks of its natural home, to the cradles of agriculture itself, the first human settlements that began cultivating their own crops, to the Yellow River Valley or the Huanghe in China, and the Tigris-Euphrates River valleys in Iraq. Humans began planting marijuana so they could have their own stash, a supply of this sacred herb and its fiber, food, and fuel. Marijuana could very well be the whole reason we gave up our hunter-gatherer way of life and began farming and agriculture, starting us down the road to civilization and knowledge. I believe that cannabis is the most sacred gift of the Creator to humanity, the holiest of the holy gifts from our Mother Earth. Every part of the cannabis hemp plant is highly useful for a diverse multitude of our needs and the needs of human civilizations. There's only one plant on this planet that's capable of taking care of most of human civilization's needs. Marijuana will take care of most of our needs. When we restore cannabis hemp to its rightful place, marijuana will produce a great deal of our fuel and energy without toxic side effects, unlike these fossil fuels we rely on today. Marijuana seeds will produce a great deal of our food and wipe out world hunger. Marijuana stems will produce most of our fiber for clothing, paper, and building materials, stopping deforestation and ending a great deal of our pollution. Hemp seeds produce more and healthier oil and protein. Hemp protein and oil are rich in the essential fatty acids, or EFAs, that our brain, immune system, and cardiovascular systems need. Marijuana seeds make omega-3, 6, and 9 in the perfect ratio for optimal human health. Hemp protein from marijuana seeds has all 8 amino acids, again, in just the right balance to meet humans' nutritional needs. When marijuana seed oil ages and goes rancid, it's no longer useful for a food, but it's a productive source for biodiesel fuel. Did you know you can take the pure oil from cold-pressed marijuana seeds and it will run any diesel engine? Well, you can. Most of our viewers know that. Pure marijuana seed oil is not only healthy for us, it will run all diesel engines with no conversion to the oil, nor modern diesel engines. Hemp seed oil, marijuana seed oil, will make just about everything that we make from petroleum today. The oil from marijuana seeds is diesel fuel and will make plastics, gasoline, and everything else. I truly believe this is the main reason marijuana is illegal today, so the petrochemical companies don't have to compete with hemp fuel and can sell us capital-intensive petrochemical poisons. The war on marijuana is not about drugs, it's about money and the continued centralization of political and economic control. Hemp stalks produce 2 types of fiber, the bast fiber, or the outer bark, and the hurd fiber, or the inner woody core of the stalk. Per acre, hemp's the most productive fiber on earth, making 10 tons of bast fiber for canvas, rope, lace, and linen, and 25 tons of herd fiber for paper and building materials on a per acre basis. The United States Department of Agriculture's own Bulletin 404 said that a waste product for making canvas, rope, lace, and linen from cannabis hemp, this waste product, the herd fiber, is more than 4 times more productive than trees for fiber production for paper and building materials. The Department of Agriculture produced a movie during World War II called Hemp for Victory that promoted hemp farming for the war effort, and it's available online for free on YouTube and on our website at hemp.org. And that's just from the seeds and stems of marijuana, cannabis hemp. You can forget what Cheech and Chong said on their first album about stems and seeds that you don't need. We need these stems and seeds. Our Mother Earth needs us to restore hemp. Then we still have the flowers. Hemp flowers make human brain chemicals, are neurotransmitters and medicines that help fight cancer, multiple sclerosis, neurodegenerative diseases, gastrointestinal disorders. It relieves chronic pain, helps glaucoma, seizures, and spasms, and restores homeostasis, or restores balance in our bodies. Marijuana increases longevity, and using it as an edible food additive will make you live longer. The flowers of hemp also make people laugh, feel good, and relieve depression, post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and much more. Cannabis is truly a cure for many forms of cancer. It's a non-toxic miracle drug for an incredible array of physical, mental ailments, and when we return cannabis hemp to its rightful place, for our planet's ailments too. I truly believe that hemp is our Mother Earth and the Creator's greatest gift to humanity. The forces of ignorance, evil, and darkness, however, are afoot. The laws against marijuana are wrong. Marijuana prohibition is a conspiracy from the current rulers of this world today, the very wealthy, the oligarchy. We don't have a republic in this country anymore. We have an oligarchy now. And it's their conspiracy to keep the wealth in their hands. Petroleum is capital intensive, where hemp is naturally decentralized. Very few people in this world have enough money or capital to compete in the petrochemical industry. And you can buy 10 hemp seed presses for the price of one small car, where it takes billions of dollars to build an oil refinery, and they're incredibly toxic. Hemp will create untold multitudes of jobs and return economic control to the people. No more wars for petroleum when we start to use hemp again. Instead, hemp can lead the way to economic and ecological sustainability and help save the remnants of our biosphere's precious heritage, the diversity of life that we should bequeath to the 7th generation and beyond. Cannabis freedom is now dawning with votes across the western United States. California's Prop 19 is a groundbreaking step to legalize possession and cultivation of up to an ounce of cannabis, and will allow California cities to legalize and regulate the newly legal sale of cannabis to adults. Oregon's ballot measure 74, the medical marijuana dispensary law, will help patients and create lots of jobs. And Arizona and South Dakota will also vote to begin to allow medical marijuana this November. Freedom of consciousness and thought should be a fundamental liberty, yet this is what truly frightens those who favor the drug war. Cannabis is a powerful tool in exploring consciousness and reality, one that's healthy and safe for the vast majority. Those who would imprison and punish us for cannabis have been lied to and misled, and our task is to educate them with truth and love. The key to so many problems in our world today is cannabis, the tree of life. Cannabis hemp will displace the petrochemical and pharmaceutical corporations that dominate our politics today, and hemp will decentralize wealth and influence at a time of growing technological advancement. We have to stop the drug war before they kick in your door. Finally, for those facing execution for anti-cannabis laws, such as in Malaysia and elsewhere, we need to work for global cannabis freedom. For those languishing in jails and prisons for anti-cannabis laws everywhere, like Roger Christie, Mark Emery, and Eddie Lepp, and untold hundreds of thousands more every year, we have to work for global cannabis freedom. For our forests, the web of life, and our Mother Earth, which suffers from extraction of her resources and poisoning of our environment, we need to work for global cannabis freedom. For economic and political justice, work for global cannabis freedom. For our brothers and sisters and all that have fallen along the way, like Jack Herer, Dr. Todd McCorea, and so many others, we have to work for global cannabis freedom. Hemp, cannabis, marijuana is the healing of the nations. We need to let our people grow and restore hemp. And that's my personal paradigm and opinion, and I thank you for allowing me to share it with you. And now we get back to the rest of our show.
There you
Getting
go.
off my soapbox.
Well, that was a pretty good soapbox. I was sitting here. It was very compelling.
Good,
I mean,
good.
Very compelling. And everything
I
you
kind
said
of
was
wrote
true.
that up for the Seattle Hemp Fest, and I kind of delivered it there, but it works a lot better with a teleprompter. You know?
And they would never give you that much time on stage.
Yeah, I know. Not on the main stage anyway. Maybe on some of the side stages.
True.
So if you're out there, we've got just about, I don't know, a few more minutes left, less than 10. You can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. And again, that was a good clip with Governor Johnson. I love to
never
see
even got
him.
a chance to meet him.
And a great song, that was Jim Page, as I said. You know,
Yes, it was.
I just briefly met him in passing, and so I walked up to him and said, "Governor Johnson, I'm the guy who arranged for, you know, that your team contacted. We arranged it."
I'm glad he was
nice
here.
to meet him.
It
Yeah,
was
me
really
too.
good. What it does is just elevates everything that we're trying to do.
Exactly.
To a level of credibility that is expected now from our group. We have people who look at us and say, "You have expertise there. Use it." You know, and political power, use it. And when the people of that level who are in politics and want to remain in politics show up and feel like they have a voice and they want to share their voice with our crowd, I'm pleased to give them that opportunity. So I was glad he was there and felt, you know, comfortable enough to come and speak in front of a whole bunch of you know, has-been hippies and hash heads and all that. You know, that we're not what they think they are. We're different. Yeah. That's for sure.
That's true. But I think we impressed him too with our event and the size of it. And like I said, I heard the next day he went to Washington, D.C. and gave the very same speech on the mall in Washington, D.C. So that's a pretty impressive accomplishment.
I wonder if they were smoking there.
I don't think they were smoking nearly as much as we were, at least not out in the open. Those Washington, D.C. cops probably did not...
You know, they've got law changes there too now.
That's true. They have medical marijuana, but you can't use it in public.
Well, it's just the same here.
You know, we have a last phone call here we'll take for the evening. Hello, caller. Welcome to our show.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hey, I got a couple questions for you.
Go for it.
All right.
Medical marijuana patient filing for disability, will that affect anything?
It won't help. Let me put it that way. There's no reason to disclose to the Social Security Department that you have a medical marijuana permit. I realize that you have to say you've released all medical records to them, but telling them about your medical marijuana card will not affect your disability application in any favorable way and could have a negative impact on it. And all depending on the judge that you draw.
Right. I haven't got my card yet. I'm getting ready to get it, but I have filed for disability.
Just be sure when you file for disability, don't tell them anything about your doctor who helped you get the medical marijuana card. You can tell them about everything else, but don't tell them about that.
Right. Okay. And one more question. This vote coming up in November, is there somewhere a person can pick up some signs and stickers to help promote this?
Yeah.
I would go to Voter Power and go voterpower.com or .org and check out them. They're the ones who are running that campaign.
Do you have internet access?
No, I don't right now.
Oh, okay.
Do they have a phone number?
You know, I don't have it right now, but we'll have it next week. So turn back in next week. We'll have more exact details on exactly where you can get some banners and posters, and because we're big supporters of ballot measure 74 that would set up dispensaries so patients could have access to marijuana without sneaking around, just have an open store they can walk into. And this is going to set it up as a nonprofit manner where they have to give away a percentage of their cannabis to low-income patients as well. So there's a lot of benefits for it. And so, like I've said, it's going to create lots of jobs and help medical marijuana patients.
Well, anyway, yeah, let us know because, hey, I'm willing to put them up all around my place to make sure people see it.
Right on.
Sounds good. We'll have more information next week, so tune back in, or if you get an opportunity, just do a web search for ballot measure 74 in Oregon, or I think if you contact Voter Power, they might have some of those in hand.
Voter Power?
Yeah, they're one of the organizations that sponsored it.
Okay.
All right, but tune in next week and we'll have more information to directly say where you can pick those up.
Oh, definitely.
All right?
I watch every week.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Good night. Well, just in quick closing, I'll say if you're out there and you are looking for a doctor to help you get a medical marijuana permit anywhere in the United States, call us for a physician referral at the number on your screen. Outside of the Portland area, you want to call 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. If you're in the Portland area, call 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. And we are currently gathering the sponsorship signatures for a run in 2012 for our Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition. We expect to see the real petitions hit the streets sometime around the holiday season.
So that is going to give us a lot more time this time, like a year and a half to raise the names rather than 6 weeks.
More than a year and a half. I'm thinking we'll have it done by next summer. We're gonna. My goal is to break the record here in Oregon for the earliest turn-in of any petition, which I helped set back in 1985 when we qualified the Oregon Marijuana Initiative in October of '85 for a vote in November of '86. So I'm hoping I can break my own record.
Well, if we don't have it by Hempstock of next year, we'll get plenty of signatures then.
That's true. That's true. Well, I want to thank you guys for watching. We're going to go out on the music of Mr. John Cornett. Thank you again, John. Thanks again, Tim, for your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for tuning in again. And tune in next week and help us restore hemp. John Cornett. He's a working class hero.
Soon as you're born, they make you feel small by giving you no time instead of it all, till the pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working class hero is something to be. Working class hero is something to be. They hurt you at home and then they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever and they despise a fool. Till you're so freaking crazy you can't follow their rules. Working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be.